Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got my annual best budget knives of all time video. These are the best knives, in my opinion, of course, under $75. Budget knives are super important. Value is very, very important. In fact, more important than ever with everything getting, dramatically more expensive. This is a very difficult list to create. I upload over 700 uploads a year, all specifically or mostly specifically to knives. So I handle a lot of stuff, and I'm constantly, keeping my best of lists. And the budget stuff is super duper competitive. But I've got my opinion on the best of the best. And the vast majority of these are available or will be available again. So I'm going to link them all right down in the description. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks so much to my patrons for supporting me. And please follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. I'm going to be going very quickly today. We are going to start off with some honorable mentions. Keep in mind, I could easily make a top 50. It wouldn't be easy, but I could do it. So if you feel like I left something out, just know there are a ton of really, really great budget knives now in 2025. And if it didn't make my top 15 list, it would probably still make my top 20 or top 50 list. So let me know what your favorites are right down in the comment section. Let's start off here with a few honorable mentions. It's hard to include everything, but there's a couple of things. I want to bring up the Lightning OTF. This is the only OTF on the list, and it's still the only one that I recommend for people looking for a budget OTF. It's very, very trustworthy. It's not going to have the best fit and finish. It's not going to have the best blade steel. But man, anybody who owns this knife will tell you the same thing. They just keep going and going and going, and they're very easy to disassemble and maintain and just keep going. So if you're looking for a budget OTF, that is still to this day the one that I recommend. As far as side opening automatic budget knives go, there's not a lot out there. It's growing a little bit. It's kind of a tricky area. I still recommend the Boker Kalashnikov, mostly, again, because of reliability. The fit and finish on these isn't, spectacular. They did bump up to D2 a few years back, and that's great. Mostly the variety. There's so many choices and different blade shapes and things like that. So if you're looking for a side opening automatic knife in the budget world and you want it to actually last, I've got a buddy who has one that lasted 14 years and still going to this day. The Boker Kalashnikov, hope I said that correctly, is definitely one that I recommend. On top of that, we have to talk about the ultimate beater knife, and I still recommend the Cold Steel Tough Light. Nothing special in terms of the look or the blade steel, but geez, that triad lock on what is it, a $32 knife? Yeah, and it's got the utility blade. I mean, it kind of, in a way, it's always going to be on a top tier list because it's just too good. This is the type of knife that you can just beat to death and it will keep going and going and going. So if that's what you're looking for, that if you can get a triad lock on something that's under $75, there's a bunch of stuff, that's great. But the Tough Light for EDC, that's probably going to be the way to go. And then people always get mad at me for not including the Kaiser Drop Bear. And while it's not in my top 15, it is a really great knife. You guys are always right, and there's lots of variety. The Kaiser Clutch Lock is really good. It's ambidextrous. There is a knife that I think is better that is essentially the same thing, and that's why it's not on my top 15 list. But it would definitely make the top 20 or top 25. So we're going to include that one. And I know you guys will get mad at me if I don't talk about the stupid Ozark Trail. It's not stupid. It's fine for $10. The slide lock knife. This is, as far as $10 pocket knives go, there's not a lot I recommend. Most of the time I tell people, bump up to about 30 plus. You're going to get a lot better knife. I still believe that. But as far as $10 knives go, yeah, this isn't bad. The fit and finish is, it's okay. It's going to have a little bit of blade play, right? Apparently the D2 is heat treated properly, and it does work. It feels like a strong enough locking system, and it works. So if you can get your hands on this and your budget is truly around that $10 area, I don't know that I've ever handled anything that feels as good as this, and this is far from a lot of the other stuff on the list. So as far as honorable mentions, I did want to bring those up. Now, let's move on to the actual list, starting at number 15, and these are in no particular order, but let me tell you, the best of the best is reserved for the very end of the list. So, starting off here with number 15, the QSP Parrot. We have to include this. Why? Because QSP has absolutely phenomenal fit and finish. They do a good job with their D2 steel. They do a good job with their frame and their tolerances and all of that. Very easy to manipulate. Nice, small, compact, lightweight EDC knife for $28. That price has not changed to my knowledge for years. This is still one of the best starting areas. If you're new and you're like, I don't want to spend a ton of money on a knife, right? I just want a good, straightforward pocket knife that's going to do what I expect it to do. QSP Parrot. Absolutely, for $28. And if not the Parrot, you want something a little bigger, something a little bit different shape. You guys know what number 14 is going to be. Excuse me. That's going to be the QSP Penguin, which is legitimately, like, that is the actual starting point. This is where I recommend the vast majority of people who just don't know what they should buy. This is where they should start out. The QSP Penguin is phenomenal. It has that utility blade shape, the D2 steel. It's got everything that you like about the Parrot. The action is just, it's amazing for the, it's so good for a $32 knife. If you are used to buying knives around the $25 to $35 mark, but maybe you have specifically always shopped at some of the surface level places, right? I think the QSP Penguin will really shock you in terms of quality. That's really like the bar. People realize, like, oh my gosh, some of these pocket knives, these inexpensive ones, get super nice in terms of the fit and finish and the build quality. These are the knives that I give as gifts to friends all the time. They are spectacular, highly recommendable. It's been on the list for years. It's probably going to keep being on the list. Moving on here to number 13, we have got to talk about the $30 CJRB Pyrite Light. And yes, I still recommend, I'm just going to include this one here. I still recommend the regular Pyrite, right? It's good. But the Pyrite Light, given that it is contoured injectional plastic, if you hate the injectional plastic, FRN, GRN, whatever it is, fine. But I love that they include white so you can dye it whatever color you want. They have these awesome coatings like this coppery finish here. Nothing special for the blade material. I believe it's the AR RPM 9, which is like a spray form 9CR18 MOV. It's fine. It's easy to touch up. It's reasonably tough. It's stainless, right? It's not going to win any awards in any particular department, but it's fine. Mostly just the overall fit and finish, the reliability, right? Their button locks are generally good, and the fact that it's $30. It's hard to get, it's not hard to get a knife for $30. It's hard to get a nice knife. And as an extremely picky reviewer who has handled thousands of budget knives, there's, admittedly, while there's still a lot of competition in this zone, it's still pretty rare to get something. There's only a handful of companies, in my opinion, doing it right. CJRB made an awesome knife with the light. I think it was a good choice, a little bit bigger than the standard one. The fact that you can get white to dye it, all of that, just makes it a really, really good choice. Even for seasoned knife people, picky knife people just looking for a good beater, that's definitely one that I'm going to recommend. Moving on here, we got to have at least one Kershaw, right? Legitimately. The Kershaw Iridium. I'd be stupid not to include this knife on the list. Kershaw, man, their stuff, they make USA stuff, right? But they also have some Chinese stuff. If you remember buying a Kershaw from 5 or 6 years back, not super great, kind of, right? But man, whatever upgrades they did, maybe they switched OEMs, their new stuff is awesome. This crossbar lock Iridium is a nice large, it's not like a huge side, but it's a larger knife in terms, like, versus a lot of other stuff on this list. Wonderful styling, really cool blade shape. Love the aluminum with the nested liners, love the backspace. It's just an awesome look. They do a good job with their heat treat. They've got a crossbar lock on this, so ambidextrous. It's really important. Either people who like to switch hands a lot, or if you're left-handed, right? These locking systems are very good, very reliable. Yes, Omega springs can break, but they're easy to replace. And generally speaking, as long as you maintain your knife, it's going to be super duper reliable. So this is on the little bit more expensive side, but it is contoured. The machining is really, really nice. The aluminum feels good. It just feels like a high-quality knife. At $66, I think that's pretty good. There's definitely better value on this list, I think, but $66 is definitely one of the best choices you can make. The Iridium is very, very good. Let's shift gears and go back to something super duper inexpensive. Back to CJRB number 11. That's going to be the CJRB Acacia. Here's why I like this a little bit more. Not that this list is in order, like I said, but here's why I like it a little bit more than the Pyrite Light. It's got the crossbar lock. On top of that, CJRB seems to like the higher tension Omega springs, which I really like. That's a big deal to me, and it feels better on the flip. Also has a little bit of a metallic, you know what I mean? Like I always say, it sounds like a penny being thrown into a pile of pennies. It's just satisfying. You have better ergonomic lines. You got the opening hole, right? You have the ambidextrous part of it, pocket clips on either. Well, most of these knives are going to have options for pocket clips on either side. I think that's really important. But again, contoured and nice high quality injection mold plastic backed up by a steel liner, so it doesn't feel insanely cheap. Same thing with the Pyrite Light. We do have that steel liner backing it up, so it still feels pretty solid. Doesn't feel like you're going to break it or it's going to explode if you sneeze on it or anything like that. So the price of this guy, you can still get it for $30, making it awesome. I think they also have a white FRN version, which you can dye. And if you're wondering, like, what do you mean use RIT dye? Look up a tutorial on YouTube. It's super easy. You can have any color you want. So definitely recommendable. Let's move on here. After the Acacia, we're going to go to number 10, the ultimate Sencut button lock knife. In my opinion, is still the Serene. I like the aluminum. It's D2, and I think it has the best combination. There's a lot of different button lock and liner lock versions of Sencut knives. Like a lot of them, it just feels like subtle variations of things. But I still feel like the Serene has the best combination of a lot of the blade shapes that we see. The fully flat ground blade, super fantastic factory edge. And they do a pretty good job with the heat treat as well. But D2 is not going to be quite stainless. I always remind people they've labeled it as non-stainless, but it's 12% chromium. A lot better than your truly non-stainless steels out there. So don't be afraid of it unless you're constantly working around water or whatever. But nice ergonomic lines, super incredibly smooth action. Sencut and Civivi and We do superior button locks. If it's got to be a button lock, if you got to have that plunge lock fidget factor, those are the top companies I'm going to recommend for that action. It just really feels phenomenal. Highly recommendable. Love that knife. Moving on here, number 9. This was a mega favorite for a long time. It's actually going to be 2 of them. That is the Miguron Moyaro. The crossbar lock or the liner lock, whichever one you want. They've bumped these up slightly. I think, maybe I'm wrong about that, slightly. $49 for the liner lock version of the Moyaro and $59 for the crossbar lock. But you get a titanium pocket clip. Why does that matter? Well, it doesn't really. I mean, like, a lot of times a steel clip will bend out and it'll be a lot less forgiving. Titanium costs a little bit more. It can be anodized, as you can see here. It's also a milled clip, so it's it's substantially more expensive to create. It's still not a horribly expensive object, but it is definitely more expensive to add this to a knife versus a stamped steel clip. And if you walk by something and it catches, it's way less likely to bend out. There's really only one thing holding this model back because the ergonomic lines are phenomenal. God, it's so good and so easy to manipulate. Miguron is one of the kings of overall quality, dollar for dollar quality in the budget knife world. 14C28N blade, so that's great. PVD coatings, that's awesome. T8 hardware, all of that. The one that has the ambidextrous locking system does not have ambidextrous clip mounting positions. WTF? I just talked with them today about this. I was like, guys, the clips are symmetrical. You got an ambidextrous locking system. Like, just do the 2 holes. The one that has a right hand specific locking system does have ambidextrous mounting positions. So if you are left-handed, I would just consider dealing with a right-handed liner lock. As you can see here, I'm right-handed. It's very easy to manipulate, very satisfying, very high quality. It is important to note that the liner lock versions, unless they have changed it, are still flat, while the crossbar lock versions are contoured in micarta. Doesn't this cobalt look nice? I love that. Cobalt with the PVD. It looks super cool. Still definitely, far and away, one of my favorite EDC budget knives. It's kind of like a slimmed down Spyderco Shaman. Really, really good. So like I said, $49 for the liner lock, $59 for the crossbar lock. Still an excellent, excellent deal. Moving on here, we have another Miguron. Absolutely spectacular, and that is the M Valona. I think this is the superior Valona. You guys, if you've watched my channel for a long time, you remember when the Valona first came, the first Miguron I ever handled. You guys were like, you got to check out the Valona. It's insane. And I thought, okay, all right, yeah, calm down. And I got my hands on it, and my brain did a backflip because it was just so far beyond what I expected for quality at the price point. It was unreal. Now, the problem with it is that it was huge and it was a little blocky. The M Valona is definitely an evolution of that. It's a little smaller, but it still feels like a good full-size knife. You don't have quite the same blockiness because the liners underneath, while still shadow boxed, are not sticking out quite as far. So the ergonomics, I think, are superior. You still get that cool PVD coated. You can get it non-coated if you want, but you get the PVD coating if you want it. You get the titanium pocket clip, right? Really nice liners. It's one of the only flippers on this list, and it's combined with a long fuller. So detent's great for flipping action. Access to the lock bar, also really, really good. But if you want to reverse flick it, you can, because it's got a fuller that runs about 80% the length of the blade and is accessible down to here. So pretty much wherever you like to do that, you can do it. It's really great. Also has a radiused spine, no jimping. They kind of missed out there, but really good. And ambidextrous mounting positions for the pocket clip, which is, again, hilarious with the specific right-hand specific locking system. Still, though, this is a $52 knife. It is definitely a wonderful value. If you're a stickler for overall fit and finish and quality and little tiny things that don't necessarily add to the total utilitarian experience, Miguron has a number of models, but this is still very impressive. It's been, I mean, how long has it been? 2 years at least with this model. Very, very good. Let's move on here to another Miguron. I know people are going to be like, Miguron must have paid him. Now, truthfully, they just make really, really good stuff. The next one here is a new one. This is a new addition to this list. There are a lot of people riding the coattails of the Benchmade bug out, and for good reason. It's a stupidly popular design. It's a good idea. It's just really expensive. I mean, Benchmade's made in the United States, right? And then you got to pay the butterfly tax and all that. But the idea behind the bug out is good. But companies saw, companies who could make budget knives saw room for improvements and, getting the price down. So what we have here, in my opinion, is the ultimate alternative to the Benchmade bug out, and that is the Miguron Vacor. I honestly don't know. This is a $43 knife. G10 textured, right? On top of that, it's not a full liner. It is a steel cartridge liner, but because it's G10 and not injection mold plastic, it does feel superior in terms of the solidity of the knife. And it's like 0.18 ounces heavier, I think. Look at that cutting geometry, ridiculously thin blade, 14C28N with the choil. Really wish they had extended the jimping out here. No big deal. Wonderful pocket clip. You can't mount it to the other side, which is dumb. Just do that, right? But high tension Omega Springs, the action, phenomenal. This is it's so good. It's such a good EDC. If you need that crossbar lock thumb stud combination, right? I know a lot of people like that. You need the superior, super thin cutting geometry. You love 14C28N. Gotta have it on a budget knife. And you need specifically, that knife that fits in any pocket. This is going to be the one. Only slightly thicker, I think. Do I have a bug out here that I can just compare to directly? Yeah, it's got custom scales on it, but here you go. I mean, yeah, they knew what they were doing. But again, Benchmade does not own basic knife profile, basic handle profile. They just made it really, really thin and then did some weird gray man marketing or whatever, and everybody was like, oh my God. But still a good idea, it does all of the same stuff. It just doesn't have quite the superior, not going to have the S30V. 14C20N though, still amazing. Love this one. The lightweight, compact budget world, I think this is the king of that territory. Very recommendable. Moving on here, we got to go to something a little bit bigger. And I always keep this one on this list for this reason. And that's going to be number 6, the CJRB Prado. This is a Ray Laconico design, and it is quite a bit larger than everything else on this list, actually. So if you have bigger hands, you want the big ergonomic, the open ergonomic profile, but maybe you're left-handed or you're ambidextrous, this is going to do it for you. Again, the AR RPM 9, which is okay. The spray form 9CR18 MOV. It'll be fine though. And you have superior ergonomics, a big open room. There's nothing blocking you or keeping you from being comfortable. You have an ambidextrous pocket clip mounting position, which again, very important, especially when you have a ambidextrous locking system. Very easy to manipulate, high tension Omega Springs. So you get that nice solid feeling of lockup, but at the same time, it's very easy to deploy because breaking that resistance means that blade is going to rocket out into the open position. It's also really nice to look at. Not a horribly expensive knife compared to everything else on this list. Kind of right in the middle. $54. I think it's well worth it. And let's also point out that this guy has full steel liners. So it's a little heavier, a little bigger, but it doesn't feel brittle. It doesn't feel like a wicker basket that's been left out in the sun for too long. You know, it feels good. So it's still on this list. It's been on this list for a long time. Highly recommendable. Moving on here, a new one for the list. You guys knew that this one would make it. People always complaining I don't put enough Kaisers on here. Kaiser's great. A top 50, they'd have like 10 models on here. Easy. But their best budget model, by far, number 5 is the Kaiser Milita. The Kaiser Milita in general is one of Kaiser's best models, period. Their premium stuff, which if you're in the market for a premium knife, definitely look at the Milita. But the premium Milita, holy moly, action, superior, whatever they're doing with the Milita, what's different about the Milita action? I cannot figure it out. Kaiser has good action in general, but the Milita, crazy good, right? Little weird with the inlay. I think I'm probably showing the red and blue one here, which I gave to my dad. This is now my dad's. We're big Kansas Jayhawk fans, so he loved this. He thought it was the coolest thing in the whole world. He's already done dad stuff with it. It's not shown here. He told me the other day, he's like, I bent the tip. And I was like, doing what? He's like, I was trying to get a screw out of it. Oh, wait, Dad, stop. Use it for knife stuff, you know? But anyways, the superior action. I love the triangle opening hole. The overall quality, fit, and finish, it translates to the budget one. This is also Nitro V, which is definitely one of the best deals that you can get in the budget territory. Super tough. You know, even for my dad, he's going to be fine with it. But the edge, the overall blade geometry is really good. The handle ergonomics are really good. A number of different colors. It's a little weird, the inlay positions, but it does offer a wide variety of different color combinations that you can get. Hopefully Kaiser kind of expands that a little bit. They seem to be stuck on Goof Town weirdo color combinations, but okay, it's really fun though. And at $65, I think it's a pretty good deal. It is nicely contoured, beautiful in the hand. Really, really good. I think this is Kaiser's best budget knife. If I've said that more than once in this video, I apologize. But for Kaiser's budget knives, that's definitely going to be one of the absolute best that you can get at $65. Moving on here. This one's been on the list for a long time, and if you check it out on Blade HQ, it's a little high, but still on Amazon. Still on Amazon. You can get it for about $69, giggity. The best Civivi button lock still to this day, the Civivi Chevalier. Why do I say that? This is such a beautiful, beautiful sheep's foot blade. 14C, 28N, fully flat ground or very nearly. And it has the tiniest little fuller there, but it's just deep enough you can get in there to do the reverse flick. But overall, beautiful, subtle curvature to the edge, a little bit of belly there. Still have a nice tip. You can do your draw cuts, things like that. You get that superior, it's kind of what I was talking about earlier, where Civivi and Sencut make some of the best button locks, or like, in my opinion, the best feeling button locks out there, and they have. So that action and that reliability, not that the button lock in general is the strongest locking system by a landslide, definitely not, but you do get that superior feeling action. I've never had to adjust this. This is crazy. You don't have to go with the wood. You can get the black G10 or micarta, whatever they have, right? Ambidextrous mounting positions for the pocket clip. The pocket clip's okay. It's just got that little bit of that Loch Ness Monster bill. So don't walk by any merry-go-rounds. Any active merry-go-rounds is definitely, take you for a ride. But really good. Nice open ergonomic profile and a little bit bigger, a little longer than a lot of the stuff on this list. Also, again, one of the only flippers on this list. The flipper button lock combo. Button locks or plunge locks don't always make for the best detents for flippers. In this case, though, really good. Really nice metallic sound there. Great quality, great dependability, great materials. You can get it on Amazon, which I'll link in the description, at $69, making it still a budget knife. Moving on here. This is the knife. It's not exactly the same, but this is the reason that the Drop Bear is not on the list, because I think this one is better. This is a new addition this year. Number 3, the Civivi Yonder, designed by Zach Whitmore, probably better known as Zach in the Wild. So initially I was kind of underwhelmed with this thing. And then the more I carried it, I was like, I kind of get it. This was designed as an everyman knife, right? And that's definitely what, companies creating budget knives should probably target mostly, as many different people as they can. This is one of the smaller knives on the list. I've got a pinky sliding off the end kind of because of that ramp, but because of the height of the handle, the overall height, it still feels like a big burly knife. Nitro V steel and this beautiful contoured micarta here, and it has the crossbar lock, and man, Civivi did a really, really good job with that crossbar lock. It feels so good. This is a great, tough little pocket knife that it doesn't have to be, like the Vacor. It doesn't have to be super thin to feel compact and lightweight, but you get it out and it kind of feels like a workhorse. And I have to imagine that that was kind of what Zach was going for as well. Nothing incredibly special with the blade, but there's a nice amount of belly. It's got that nice little sort of reverse tanto, the very tip of it, if you want to do draw cuts and things like that. And again, the blade is short enough. If you go by Ben's rule with the finger length, it's kind of about where it is for me. Really good. The thumb stud action is great. Just overall, I think this is probably, I missed that terrible reverse flick there, but ambidextrous mounting position for the pocket clip. Short clip. If you're like me and you like a short clip, very similar to Benchmade short clip, right? In fact, it's almost exactly the same thing. I like that though. Not crazy retention, in and out of the pocket, very, very easy. It's just a great knife. There's a lot of knives that are kind of like this. The Drop Bear seems to be the crowd favorite. I think the Yonder is better. I still think the Drop Bear is good. I think the Yonder is better. Very dependable crossbar locks. Or Civivi does a great job with the crossbar locks, and I think it feels great. So I had to include this one on the list. Now, you guys know that there are two specific knives that are missing from this list. So you probably know exactly which two knives are in the final two. These are the most superior knives on this list by a landslide. By a landslide. Only a couple of drawbacks to these. Number two, the Vosteed Raccoon, specifically the top liner lock version. That looks like a button lock. It's actually a button operated compression lock. Why is that important? Because instead of the liner locking up underneath the knife, as would be the case with the Ontario Rat 1 and 2, it locks up behind a tab on the blade. I guess what you'd call the tang of the blade. This makes for superior solidity and reliability in terms of lockup. On top of that, because it's not a plunge lock, it actually has a detent ball, which means you get to operate it like a button lock. You get that satisfying, release on the disengagement, but you get that nice click off the detent ball. So deploying it feels super crispy. 14C28N. In this case, we have micarta, ambidextrous mounting positions for the pocket clip. Left-handed people, you can enjoy this essentially the same way as a right-handed person. You only have to watch out for one hand position, and that's when you are choked up. You need to make sure and not put too much pressure on that button because you can disengage it. So left-handed people specifically. Right-handed people, your natural hand position is not going to land on that button, so you don't have anything to worry about. In terms of reliability, long-term reliability, lockup solidity, all of that, this top liner lock, ever since the Spyderco compression lock, that patent ended, I don't know why every single company in existence is not jumping on this. Vosteed is killing it. The Raccoon is amazing, and it will continue to be amazing. I have a feeling that they're going to release a whole bunch of stuff. $69, yes, absolutely. It's one of the most expensive ones on the list. Yes, if you can get your hands on it. They make a crossbar lock version as well. If you can find a top liner lock version, that's what you want to go for. And at number one, not necessarily universally superior to the Raccoon, but this is the new kid on the block for Vosteed. Only recently did you guys see my unboxing for this. It did not take me more than a week to come to the conclusion that this is one of the greatest budget knives that has ever existed, and that's the Vosteed Porcupine top liner lock. So it's everything that I love. I'm a little biased here because I like this profile. It's everything that I love about the profile of the Moyarl, right? It's kind of that same look. It's hardly the first, it won't be the last to do this look, right? You get that beautiful ergonomic kind of flow. Comfortable here, right? Wonderful jimping. Awesome access to the opening hole, which I prefer much more than the thumb stud. I still like a thumb stud, right? Sometimes when I'm in gloves, I find it a little easier to get at this opening hole here. Awesome button here. It's recessed too just a little bit, but it is, again, a top liner lock, ambidextrous pocket clip mounting positions. It's a wire clip. Some people like that more, right? Take your pick. I still think this pocket clip is superior on the Raccoon. Big lanyard hole if you care about that. T8 hardware across the board, which again, I think is the same way for, no, this is T6. So these guys are T8. We got a nice aluminum pivot collar, which adds for a little bit of visual customization. Bunch of different versions of this. This one might be a little tricky to get your hands on at the moment, but eventually, yes. I feel like, for me, this is the top choice because of the ergonomic lines, the blade shape, and the opening hole system. Those are preferences for me. So for me, this is a superior pocket knife. If your hands are a little bit bigger, you like thumb studs, or you like more of a sheep's foot style blade, then you might prefer the raccoon. I don't want to sit here and say the porcupine is definitely better. It's just going to be circumstantially better, or it's going to be more preferable for certain people. But it is absolutely 100% one of the very best budget knives to ever exist with that top liner lock. It is so much stronger and so much more reliable than the vast majority of stuff, save for Cold Steel's budget triad lock stuff. But again, $69, I believe it's also about $69. And I think that's perfectly fine considering how long these systems are going to last. But absolutely phenomenal. I've been EDCing this one regularly just because I enjoy it so much. You're not going to hear me shut up about this one for a while. You're going to hear more of the same in the final review of this product. But yeah, definitely. Man, I tried to go fast. This was still a 30-minute video. The vast majority of this stuff is available. I'll link it all down in the description. I cannot believe I got this whole video done in one take. People are like, that's probably because you talk so much. Yeah, you're right. It probably could have been a 20-minute or 15-minute video, but I got a lot to say. This is fun stuff, right? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what your favorite is. If you have experience with any of these knives and you feel the same or differently than me, please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.